This first says to create a label, and it says enable to create a label for this field. For the table type of view, this label will appear in the table header. And let's go ahead and leave this at dates. It says place a colon after the label. And you wouldn't know this by now, but this doesn't really impact the table header type label. This would impact a different type of view display where the label appears next to or above the content of the field. This says exclude from display, and this is if we want to add a field that we're going to reference later in the view, but we don't want it to display just yet. Right now, we do want it to display, so we'll leave this unchecked. We have some options for the formatter. If we click on this, we see we can use the default, plain text, or trimmed. Let's go ahead and leave this at the default. I'm going to continue to scroll down. Let's take a brief look at the style settings. I'm going to expand this field set. These options allow us to adjust the HTML output of both the field and the label. We can wrap the field in HTML, the label in HTML, or both the field and the label in HTML. And if we click these, we get a list of additional options. We can select the HTML element that we want to wrap around the label or the field or both. And if we click the select box here, you can see that we can choose a number of options: div, span, heading tags, p, strong, or emphasis. So this can be a very quick way to add some HTML that you can use to adjust the look of this particular piece of content. You can also click here to create a CSS class that will add a CSS class to the wrapper element that we're using for HTML element here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click this. We're going to leave these as empty at this point. And here we have the option to add default classes, which will add a set of classes to the field and the label in both in order to make it easier to pinpoint those items in CSS. The basic idea is that these classes are pretty long and detailed, and sometimes you don't need all of those extra classes in your view if you're not going to style them specifically. So you have the option of removing them here. Okay, I'm going to continue to scroll down. I'm going to click on this no results behavior option. If there's no data for this particular field, we can set the text to display in that case. So for example, if there was no date for a particular tour, we could set in here to say no dates selected yet. And then that way we have some default option if that content hasn't been filled in. If we're dealing with numbers, we can count the number 0 as empty, and so it will trigger this no results text. And we can also hide this if it's empty. Now this doesn't necessarily make sense in a table style view, but if we're on a view that lists data in sequential order, for example, we have a blog view that displays the title, the tags, and then the content of the blog, and we want to hide the tag area if there's no tags associated with it, we can click this and it will hide this if it's empty.